How to get new knees in 30 days. I try to be the best I can be as a trainer at everything, but there's one thing that's my ultimate strength. It's getting rid of knee pain and transforming knee ability so that whenever you're getting into the knee pain in the first place, that stops happening and your whole life changes. The things that used to hurt your knees don't, and you'll hardly remember what it used to be like. But you don't do that through some little dinky fix, or maybe if I walk differently or things like that. We're talking about changing the ability. We're talking about new knees, a different set of knees, a new type of knee ability in 30 days. This is an overview, and then we're going to go deep into detail on each point. Reverse sled. So I've had people every single day do reverse sled. I've had people walk in with scheduled knee surgeries, and just from doing this in the manner that I'm going to show you, I've had people be able to cancel their knee surgeries, and now years later they've never looked back. For every exercise, these are exercises, these are stretches, you need to be aware of what's going to tighten up from doing the exercise. So if you came to the gym and all you did was reverse sled every day for 30 days, I would have you finish each session working on your calf flexibility, and you'll see why. If you feel up for it, and if you have the time for it, you can add the Patrick step up. If you can walk, you can do that. You'll see when we go into each of these exercises. But the tighter your calves, the less you'll be able to get out of the Patrick step up, and you'll see why. Then if you're doing the Patrick step up, the difference between reverse sled and Patrick step up is that reverse sled is only your quad extending, and it's not actually receiving any trauma on the way down, whereas the Patrick step up is preparing you on the way down. That leads to more stiffening qualities, and if you're tight right behind your knee, that can be in the way of how much results you can get out of this. And then the KOT squat also. If you can walk, you can do the KOT squat at some level. But if you're going to be working on that, then we are progressing towards deeper and deeper knee bending. The deeper your knees bend, the more room we need for them to bend, and the piriformis is the number one thing that tightens up that knee bend. Then the tibialis raise. If the calves and if behind the knee is tight, it's going to be harder to develop the tibialis, but it's already opened up from all that, so you're going to be able to develop the tibialis a ton. This is like your first line of defense against knee pain. Meaning if your knee ability is great, you could probably be fine without that first line of defense. But this is one of the areas. These are all things that I've seen people do that have worked knee miracles in these exact orders. But if you're going to be training your tibialis, it can tighten. So we need to stretch the tibialis, and a properly done couch stretch not only stretches the tibialis, but opens up the flexibility of the quads, because the last place I've seen work knee results in miraculous fashion is actually the Nordic. And if you're going to be trying to train the Nordic through tight quads, you're not going to get as much out of it. So this is a full approach. For example, if you just did reverse sled and calf stretch every day, you could work knee miracles. But the next degree would be adding the Patrick step up. So if you did reverse sled and then Patrick step up, you'd want to finish your session with calf stretch and elevated pike. If you did reverse sled, Patrick step up, and KOT squat, you'd want to finish with all three of those stretches. If you did all four of these exercises, you want to finish with all four of these stretches. Same with if you did all five. So this is all going to be in details in this video, the way Connor's going to put it together. Now let's dive into the exact details behind each point. Number one goal is max quad pump. I don't even want you worrying about whether you feel the VMO or the upper quad. Max quad pump. And the reason is because we're really trying to get blood flow all the way down through the knees themselves. And when you're using a sled or a dead mill or a hill or however you're doing it, pushing a car, you're pushing through your feet. So if you try to really get the fastest pace you can get going without knee pain, it's about the fastest pace and the biggest steps. So if you have to, start small, slow steps. Then as you get more capable, speed up your steps and start reach to the left, reach to the right. I'm reaching. The faster you can get into it, the harder you can get into it. Just try to burn your quads, and by trying to burn your quads, you will get the most strengthening into your VMOs. Don't think about isolating anything. Think about speed. This is a result. People are often like, oh, I'm not getting a burn. Well, yeah, you're basically just using your weight to fall back. And that's fine at first, but realize that moving the sled is not as causing as much strength as moving the sled faster. So whether you're on a sled or on a dead mill, it's the speed. If you just go slow on a dead mill the whole time, you might never challenge the muscles enough to get blood flow. And that's why if you have a sled, find a weight that challenges you. If it's too light, it never puts resistance, but if it's too heavy, then you'll stay slow. So in our gym, you can see this is a 130-pound sled, and I've got 44 pounds on it. So if I go fast and reach, I'm gonna do this to max quad pump. In here, I tell people to go down and back 10 times. Your body moves about 15 meters. So if you're going with the sled, you could say a safe exercise protocol would be 300 meters of the fastest you can go without knee pain, the fastest, biggest steps you can go without knee pain. What you're doing, you're literally directly, whatever's hurting your knees, whether it's from lifting or jumping or running, cutting, we're putting that pain on reverse. We're reversing out that pain. And that's why the sled is number one. And I've actually like countless people now, dozens of people cancel knee surgeries just with sled every day for 30 days. And the one thing they did for sure was stretch those calves after. So let's take a look at that. So the first thing these people had in common after doing the sled is stretching their calves. So you want a slant board. If you don't have a slant board, I mean, these are getting more affordable to get. One of our lead trainers, Mr. Infinity, makes these. They're super lightweight. You can put them in your gym bag. They adjust. But we've even had members who make them out of wood. And at worst case, just use a stair or a step and stretch your calves. The point is that because of all the pushing through the balls of your feet, you're actually strengthening your calves quite a bit when you do all the reverse work, but they're also tightening. And we don't want them tight because the first step to getting your knees over your toes is upper calf flexibility. So upper calf is the first limiter of the lower calf flexibility. And on the calf stretch, the farther you can lean that angle. So you see this, that doesn't stretch my calf more. That stretches my calf more. It's not how far your chest gets, it's how far your knee gets without bending this way. So here, that's stretching the calf. There's your calf stretch right there. And why do we want the upper calf opened up? And just as a side note, you should get this stretch to where you don't even feel a stretch in your upper calf. You'll get your upper calf so flexible that you'll only feel lower calf, and that's what you want, and that's why we're going to the next exercise. All right, for the people who did the sled and the calf stretch and wanted to take an even faster approach, they worked on the Patrick Step Up. The Patrick Step Up, we want to work to a 6-inch box, but it's so important to not work through any pain at all. 6-inch box, we'd be working for 10 reps. Your toe is slightly pointed out just to make sure we get full emphasis on that VMO. When you lower down, you're lowering only to the heel of that foot, and this knee is not bending. So the bottom leg stays locked out with the toe flexed up. That ensures that this leg actually has to strengthen. And if you look purely from a side angle, what makes a Patrick Step Up perfect form, and this is why we insist on you sending us your form, is that the glute finishes in front of the heel. So if there's a straight line up from here, if your glute is behind that, then you're trying too high for what your knee can actually do. The glute simply finishes in front of the heel, and that ensures that the knee is doing the work. You balance at the top without touching the other foot, because the VMO is the muscle most responsible for balance in your body. So don't give it a break at the top. You balance yourself. This leg is just dead weight, it doesn't move. You rest at the bottom so that there's no bounce. So you fully pause, 2 seconds at the bottom. Explode up and balance, 2 second hold at the top. Slow down, 3 seconds down. Pause, explode. 10 reps per set. And you want to eventually work with a bar on your back. So there's nothing fancy about that. The bar on the back makes it easy to focus on your legs and keep your attention down there since the bar is easily resting. But if you have knee pain, and 6 inches is about 15 centimeters. So for every 1 inch or every 2.5 centimeters, you would add 5 reps. So here's what I mean. If at a 6-inch box, we're doing sets of 10, then at a 2-inch box, we're doing sets of 30. At a 4-inch box, we're doing sets of 20. It's because of the distance that you're actually moving. If you're gonna be moving less distance, so if you have knee pain and you have to start on a 2-inch box, that's fine, but I need you to do 30 reps per set in order to get as much actual work done as we were doing on a 6-inch box. And you could even go in between. So say 6 inches was too tough, but I thought 4 inches was easy. Okay, I could go 5 inches. So here, this would be 15 reps. So if 6 inches was 10 reps, 5 inches, 15 reps, 4 inches, 20 reps, 3 inches, 25 reps, 2 inches, 30 reps. So this exercise, because of opening up the calves and because of getting blood into those quads and strengthening the VMOs, by strengthening those knees in reverse on the sled or dead mill, then you're ready to now start putting some actual loading on the way down. And the Patrick step up allows you to perfectly load and improve your knee ability without any pressure on your knees that you can't handle. The key rule is absolutely no working through pain, and that's why it's important to just use a height that you can without pain and add reps as necessary. So if we're going to be working the strength of those quads on the way down, then we need to be stretching the opposite side of that. So rather than just the calf stretch, you would take your same board or step and you would start the same way. The back knee stays bent. It's all about the front leg, and you're trying to breathe specifically behind the knee. If you reach back, you can feel upper hamstring. There's a lot of good stretches out there. Specifically, we're trying to find, so stand close enough and reach far enough this way that you feel it right behind your knee. For people with knee pain, this tends to be particularly tight, and it's actually a different muscle called the popliteus. So look that up and open up behind the knee. So if you're going to be working the Patrick step up, you also work the single leg elevated pike. I took some random gym objects to show you how to work on this exercise. The KOT squat, meaning knees over toes squat. We're turning our toes slightly out, again to give pressure to here, but also because we're going to end up at a certain height. Once you go down, you'll end up going onto your toes, and I want that big toe pushing, because the big toe, if you get a strong big toe, it ensures that in sports, you're not going to shy away and use your outer toes, which also means potentially unnecessary. Sports has all kinds of its own motions, but if you're unnecessarily avoiding the VMO, that's going to be a problem for your knee. So turning the toes slightly out so that you go onto the big toe is key. Just like with the step up, this is key to never work through pain. And you can see you can make these as high as you need, and it's a completely progressive exercise. And this one, I just want you going to a level that puts your shin parallel to the floor. The reason for that is if you go even deeper than shin parallel, it's an excellent exercise, but it does get way more into the toes rather than just the knees. So in terms of weight, like if you think about weight according to physics, if I held a weight in my hand, that's going to be the heaviest point because it's farthest away from me. And so it's the same with the quads on this squat. When you hit a level where your shins are parallel to the floor, that's the heaviest the weight's actually going to get on your quads. When you go below that point, it's an impressive feat, but the knees are actually don't have quite as much weight on them. And it's really like big toe, it gets into flexibility through here. So with this exercise, you're just trying to work your way down to parallel without pain. And from that point, you can add weight. You want to put it on front. You can hold the weight on front because you're going to lean back. So if you try to go bar and back loaded, it's going to be really funky and lean you back. But if you put the weight on front, so you can go dumbbells. Once you're strong enough with dumbbells, Then you can start with whatever bar that your gym has, and then you would go heavier and heavier. The key points on the form are: number one, putting your knees down gently. If you thump like that, that means you went past the point that the muscles responsible for your knees could actually handle. So the first key point is that you actually put yourself down gently rather than being under control, and then dropping. Stay under control all the way down. Now at the bottom, this is like your break to focus. And you actually want to keep those glutes squeezed when you come up. So if step number one is control down, step number two is squeeze the glutes, step number three is push to come back up without letting the glutes break. So every rep, no matter how heavy you get, you're thinking that every rep. Controlling down, squeezing the glutes, pushing through. This exercise simply needs to be done at the level you can do without any pain. So I brought more of these over just to show. To start at the level you can do without pain. As long as those knees are bending at all, you're making improvement. It just takes patience. Keep going, and day after day, you'll get lower and lower. But imagine if you're at a level where your muscles and tendons cannot handle the force to go to there without pain, and then you progress that down by the end of 30 days to where you can do that with no pain at all. Then when you're on the court, or even when you're squatting, or whatever motions it is that's causing you pain, you're going to have less pain in your knees than you did at the beginning. So this is a perfect example of how you're improving your knee ability. But if you can even walk at all, you can probably start this at some, if you get real close to it, if you can walk, you can probably start at this level and progress from there. Two ways I want you to progress this. First is what we call a 90-90 progression. So front leg is at 90 degrees, back leg is at 90 degrees. I'm just thinking to get my torso flat on my leg, and while doing that, I don't want to roll out of the stretch. I want to be pushing myself into the stretch. So I'm actually using my arms on the floor to just stay engaged. The goal is a light stretch through the outside of that glute. You may feel it even creep along the outside of the leg. As this gets easier, you extend the back leg, which allows you to tuck even more. But again, relaxing, you're not going to feel a stretch. Staying engaged and twisting into it, you're going to feel it. From that point, now you want to bring your chest up. This is the second progression to just a perfect pigeon pose, because now by bringing the chest up, you can use your arms and you can push that way to try to get that torque even more. So to get the stretch through there, it basically we have to create a stretch in the hips. And that's why keeping the one hip down, and the more we push that other hip towards the floor, the greater stretch we get. And that's extremely important, because when this is all tight, it tugs on the knee in a way that you can't properly use the VMO. So this is one of those sort of miracle workers, is that people who get as far as the KOT squat, also doing daily piriformis stretching, end up having these miracle results. But if you don't do this, you could be missing out, because by going deeper now, things are going to get tighter when you're going deeper into knee bending. If you're getting this far and you want to put even more into it, the tibialis raise. This is another one that this alone has caused miracles for people's knees. You simply put your butt against the wall. The farther out you stand, the harder the drill is. You don't let your knees bend. The lower the angle of the shin, the greater the angle at the ankle, and then the harder it is, according to physics, the harder it is to flex those toes up. So this muscle that starts right there and goes across is having to contract. Your shoulders are not against the wall. The shoulders are in front, so only your butt is against the wall, your chest is off the wall, your legs are locked. If you do this and you don't find any difficulty, then you walk out further. If you go far and you can't even get your knees up, then you walk closer. So you actually monitor the difficulty of the exercise yourself, always being sure to point your toes towards the floor at the bottom and then flex and hold as high as you can on the way up. So you can see if I just take that angle, if I'm approaching into a jump, the weaker this muscle is, the less control I have and the more pressure slams through the knee. So this is an indirect protector of the knee, that every time you reach forward on a jump, the weaker that muscle is, the more pressure your knee takes. So if you're going to be strengthening your tibialis, we need to be deep, stretching it, and we're killing two birds with one stone. Because by getting the knee all the way against the wall and then turning out, I'm aligning everything up straight there. For some people, you'll feel a stretch already in this position, but you can actually use your hand on your leg to push back, and you'll feel an increased stretch there. And then when you can push back to here, you can put your hands on your hips and lean back even further, at which point you can reach up, grab the outside elbow, and turn in. What we're doing is we're opening up all this. And this is another one that you just see when it comes especially to jumper's knee on top of the quad. The tighter all this is, it's just tugging here. So we're getting a full ankle stretch. We're stretching that tibialis maximally, and we're opening up the quads, which is key, because if we're going to train the Nordic and really train the hamstrings, then we have to open up the opposite side. You'll see that as a common theme, is that we want to be opening up the opposite of what we're trying to train. All right, the final point that you can train daily, but you're definitely at a high risk of being sore, and you don't have to do it daily, is the Nordic. So Derek made these straps so that it can hold your feet down. You can see with this strap, I can hold my feet down. The Nordic simply creates the greatest pressure, the greatest eccentric pressure on the way down on those hamstrings of any exercise. When you come up, you actually extend abs off the bench first and then pull behind your knee. And this is a totally progressive exercise that, based on where your hips are, so you put this, so this is right at the edge of the hip. So now when I extend, I have less weight. So if I extend here, it's much easier. But it's still going to be tough on the way down, fighting. So what we're doing is, by strengthening, when we lengthen the leg, we're getting stronger right behind that knee. And when you play sports, squat, whatever it is, the stronger you are right behind that knee, the better your body can operate. So if you can imagine going into a jump and you're weak back here, you're going to unnecessarily be trying to go like all quad. So this is the muscle that co-contracts to stabilize the knee with that VMO. And again, I've seen people start working on this, and I've seen people swear by the Nordic for transforming their knees. But one thing's for sure with this program we went over, we're actually training the foot strength and calf strength every day with the reverse sledding. And then we're improving the ability of the muscle right on top of the knee here, and right here under the knee, and right here. So as crazy as it sounds, it's not only not crazy, it's almost so simple, it's stupid, that the way that I work knee miracle after knee miracle is by, oh, you're having a problem with this? Well, let's improve everything right around this joint. And with this strategic plan, in the ways that are best to train it, you won't tighten up in the other muscles, and you'll actually, by improving the flexibility here, we're actually improving all the flexibility around the knee as well. So there you go. Pay attention to the exact sets and reps, and always send in the precise video of your form that I'm asking for based on the exercise.